Welcome back to Politics Unplugged. Tonight's hot topic, the Phoenix City budget. Now, the City Council has approved a $1.2 billion budget. Now, that budget originally included the property tax increase for residents, and that seems to be a sticking point. Council members will now take another look at that idea, but that could mean taxes elsewhere or some changes in the spending plans. And joining us tonight is Councilman Jim Waring and Kevin McCarthy from the Arizona Tax Research Association. I want to thank you both for being here. And let's start with you, Mr. Waring. Just tell us a little bit about this potential property tax.
Well, last August, the city raised the sales tax. This spring, it raised the water rates. A couple weeks ago, it raised the trip fee to the airport. Now it's going to raise the property tax on July 1st, if the vote goes through, to pay for a budget that they otherwise don't have money to fund. A couple of years ago, they raised the parking fees downtown. This is economic development only for people who work at the city of Phoenix, not for the residents. You can't keep taxing every single walk of life and keep increasing those taxes just to pay for ongoing expenditures. This is a tax and spend budget, and all it will do is pay for employee pay raises and new programs.
Mr. McCarthy?
Well, I would agree with Councilman Waring. We're very concerned about the fact that in this instance, actually, we think the city has the money to not increase or to forego the property tax increase. Taxes previously levied on property taxes that arguably weren't even legal when they did it are in the debt service fund. So if they wanted to do the right thing, they would at least credit taxpayers back for the monies they already paid. It's the equivalent of your mortgage company over collecting on your mortgage and then acting like they're doing you a favor by just slightly recognizing your impound account. There's over $100 million sitting there, and they could completely forego the property tax increase by just recognizing that cash this year.
But the city's going to have some big expenditures coming up. I mean, it's looking to keep the Suns in town, potentially lure the Coyotes away. There's a potential issue there with the Diamondback Stadium down there as the county wants to move that over to the city. The city might need a lot more revenue moving forward, right?
Well, the city keeps expanding its operations. I personally won't vote for funding for new stadiums. It's nothing against the Suns. I do think they have served as an economic development tool down there. It would be painful to see the $60 million plus a mile light rail lines go past empty lots if push came to shove. But on the heels of the tax increases, property taxes, water rates, sales taxes, these are things that both affluent people and people of less means have to pay. You're really hitting people where it hurts, in addition to the trips to the airport and the rec fees and everything else. It's just frustrating to watch. I think to add in, we're going to do something for the teams, would be adding insult to injury. Again, I'm not anti-team. I'm not leading some crusade against the stadiums. We'll see how it plays out. There is another member on the liberal wing of our council who is not happy about the stadium situation either. But I mean, it is, if I was a resident, and not on the city council and didn't have a voice, I'd be pretty frustrated at what I was hearing. It seems like misplaced priorities. We're still not hiring as many police officers as we should.
I was going to say, I mean, the city manager, though, says that it needs more money, more revenues to cover a lot of bond projects and other spending like that. What do you say to that?
Well, that's an interesting argument. As Councilman Waring noted, we had a massive tax increase in the city of Phoenix last year that we pointed out occurred at a time when they have skyrocketing levels of debt in their retirement systems, a structural imbalance in the budget. We thought it was an odd timing in terms of priority that they would dedicate that amount of revenue to transportation when they didn't have arguably enough police officers on the street, got skyrocketing levels of debt. And as it turns out, they wanted to do that first, and now we're going to come back and we're going to have tax increases for the general fund. I think ultimately the city is going to have to do something about the narrative that they have been peddling for years, that they don't increase property taxes when they have, and they've done so. And they're going to have to do something about the debt service account. It shouldn't be, though, at a time that they're sitting on over $100 million that have already been collected for that purpose, and they want to save $70 million of it.
Now, one idea is to take some, that's been floated out there, is to take some money from the tourism sales tax fund. Where are you on this?
Take it, you mean to cover ongoing expenses? Because that's Councilman, I think, Gallego's. Yeah. At least that's what she's talking about in the paper. You know, realistically, that fund was set up for a stadium in 1989. That fund got used for a hotel, which I was against. It was before I was on the council, but that hotel cost us a lot of money, and we haven't recouped that funding yet, and other buildings, so they opened it up to other uses. But I am not in favor, as Mr. McCarthy mentioned, I'm not in favor of taking money that was targeted for one purpose, which was the stadiums originally, and using it on something else. So I am not leading that charge. If push came to shove and the teams moved off to, or the Suns anyway, moved off to somewhere else, then I would be looking to refund that money back to taxpayers. I think that would be the appropriate thing to do. But I think using anything that's for capital expenditures for ongoing expenses, I reject the premise of that idea, and I'm against it.
All right, now, obviously, you are opposed to any taxpayer money going to fund stadiums out there, but I'll ask you, Mr. McCarthy, I think I know where you're at on this, but is there any justification for using taxpayer money to keep these stadiums? I mean, let's face it, it seems that at this point, right now, the taxpayers will be on the hook if they want to keep their sports teams in town.
These end up being arguments that are largely grounded in that these provide an intrinsic value to the state or the communities that they're in, and that's why taxpayers have to support them, notwithstanding the fact that in most of these organizations are very profitable and have the money in many instances to do it themselves. That's being demonstrated across the country in various cities where the owners are building them. No, we're not fans of taxpayer support for stadium, and worse so, that has been recently peddled, the notion that the state's taxpayers ought to participate in that, which surfaced in the Coyotes discussions at the Capitol late in the session. That we think is particularly
but does, like you said, an intrinsic value, and there is an argument to be made out there. I mean, a lot of people enjoy taking their family to games.
Value is something else, but they have value. The downtown has been revitalized. When I was getting my PhD, I went down to the ASU at the Esplanade, and boy, it was pretty grim downtown. Yeah. So the stadiums have done a good job of attracting people downtown. I would argue maybe taxpayer money. I didn't vote for the stadiums. I sure wouldn't vote for them either. But to keep the teams in the current facilities, now that all that light rail infrastructure, I'm against light rail. One of the reasons why is it's not flexible. So if the teams leave, how stupid is everybody going to look when there's an empty hockey stadium on the west side of town, and there's hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure for the light rail going past empty lots? I'm not sure which is a better example of urban planning malfeasance. But bottom line, if we could get those stadiums up to par and make it so that at least taxpayers are getting back some money on their investment, okay. I don't know if that's possible, though. And the teams may move. I don't know.
All right, we'll have to end it there on that. We're going to have to take another quick break, but we still have lots more to talk about here on Politics Unplugged. Next, is there anything Donald Trump just won't say?
Did you ever hear Pocahontas? Huh? It's Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren.
And it seems Bernie Sanders has some things to say about Mr. Trump, the non-nominee who is ready to debate. Still ahead.
Come see us at Lavista RV during our blowout sale. This new Winnebago Spider is loaded with equipment. Save over $19,000. Now just $34,998 or only $221 per month. It's an RV blowout sale at Lavista RV in Phoenix and Mesa.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
At first, you think, I want my son to be able to walk.
Army Specialist Andrew Pike was paralyzed while serving in Iraq.
My injury was a gunshot wound to the left abdomen from a sniper. My first contact with the paralyzed veterans was in Walter Reed.
And we try to reassure them what benefits are out there, and we try to educate them and take some of that stress away from them.
PVA did a fantastic job making sure that he got those benefits on a timely basis.
We help him apply for automobile grants, special adaptive housing, and vocational rehabilitation.
Right now, I'm going back to school to earn a degree. I'm working with a real estate agency in town with my realtor's license. Come on in, take a look around. And I'm just spending time with my wife and child and just moving on with our lives just as anyone in my age group would do.
Paralyzed Veterans of America, helping veterans secure their benefits and rebuild their lives. You can help. Visit pva.org.
Come see us at Lavista RV during our blowout sale. This new Dutchman Kodiak is loaded with equipment. Save over $13,000. Now just $22,998 or only $179 per month. It's an RV blowout sale at Lavista RV in Phoenix and Mesa.
Welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It's now time to talk it out with our partners from First Strategic. With us today is Kurt Davis and Marcus Dellartino. We don't have a whole lot of time, so I just want to start with get your thoughts on the McCain-Kirkpatrick potential matchup. Now, I know both of you, longtime friends, supporters of John McCain, probably think he's going to win, but Marcus, I want you to tell me how he could lose this.
Donald Trump. You know, it's all, listen, it's going to come down to turnout. We've talked about this at length on this show. What's going to be the reaction of the electorate? Is it going to be, I'm going to vote for anybody but Trump on the Republican side and they're going to stay home? Mitt Romney, I think, experienced a little bit of that in his last election. Or is he energizing a new segment of the Republican Party or, frankly, the Independent Party to come out and turn out? And if it's the latter, of course, that helps, John.
All right. Since you brought up Donald Trump, let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump now. He seems to have wrapped up the nomination now, has the delegates needed to get to cinch up that nomination at the convention in Ohio over the summer. Now, he took a swing out west on the campaign, and he took some shots at New Mexico governor. I want you to take a listen.
Your governor has got to do a better job. She's not doing the job. Hey, maybe I'll run for governor of New Mexico. I'll get this place going.
Is this going to help him with his problem with women, with Hispanics, minorities?
No. It's not. But it's also, we've entered, you know, this unbelievable season of political incorrectness, and it has paid off for him.
Yeah. Well, it definitely, you start talking about political incorrectness here. Now, the New Mexican governor wasn't the only person that Mr. Trump was taking shots at here, as he also went after, took a jab at Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren. Here, take a listen to what he had to say about her.
Did you ever hear of Pocahontas? Huh? It's Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. She was going out. She is probably the senator that's doing just about the least in the United States Senate.
Now, we did mention Senator Warren has been highly critical of Trump as well this past week. She tweeted out, among other things, at real Donald Trump knows he's a loser. His insecurities are on parade. Plenty bullying, attacks on women, cheap racism, flagrant narcissism. Loser seems to be her favorite term for Mr. Trump.
Well, he uses the word all the time, too, so it's obviously they're queuing up on each other and playing off on
that one's interesting.
But what does he get out of this? Because
his numbers continue. Every time he attacks somebody, his numbers goes up.
But she's got nothing to lose. What does he get out of attacking her? She's a non-player in this.
He's trying to create an over message that another Washington politician who didn't tell you the truth. And Elizabeth Warren had a little problem with the truth related to her heritage. And so he's creating that juxtaposition about the outsider versus the insider.
It also seems that Native Americans might be collateral damage there in this war of the worlds. I mean, you know, is this offensive language when he goes after Elizabeth Warren, calling her Pocahontas?
Well, to Kurt's point, remember, she did say she was part Native American, so that's where the Pocahontas jab is coming from. But we can't segment out the Native American population and say they should be offended, because he's offended everybody. I mean, Italians, Polish, Russian, women, the disabled. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, you know, we're all in the same bunch. We've all been, frankly, offended at some point by Donald Trump.
Maybe it'll toughen American skin up a little bit.
All right, well, oh, man. So let's move on real quick here, and let's talk a little bit about this proposed debate between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. I mean, what was the deal with that? It looks like it's not going to happen, as we're learning here on late Friday. But why this? Who would have benefited?
Well, the beneficiary actually would have been Trump, and the loser in it would have been Hillary. because what they would be doing is showing that there's still a primary on the Democratic side, and they would have been giving him a great platform, the Democratic challenger, to continue to campaign. So and Trump would have held his own just fine with Bernie Sanders. So I think it actually would have been a positive for both of them.
All right, and I want to bring it back to the state here real quick. Last question. It looks like the chairman of the Arizona Republican Party is concerned right now that the RNC is not stepping up and playing very much here in Arizona. They've only got one operative here on the ground. Democrats have about nearly 70, plan to ratchet that up to about 200. He was in Politico complaining about this. Is this something that Republican candidates in Arizona should be worried about?
No. Not. This happens every election cycle, frankly, and it's the chairman's job to do that. Chairman wants more resources from the RNC, obviously, but you know,
the chairman might be running for chairman too.
Yeah, Arizona.
All right, well, just leave it at that, and that's all the time we have for Politics Unplugged. We'll see you next week. Good night.